Hello and welcome to this video all about vector search indexes in Databricks. This is part one of a multi-part series all about vector search indexes and RAG. So be sure to check out the other videos after watching this one. So let's get started. First of all, what is a vector search index in Databricks? Well, it is a structure in a delta table, basically an additional column that stores numeric embeddings of your text data, so of a column within that table. And what this allows you to do is search and retrieve rows from that table that are most similar in meaning to a query. There are a few prerequisites. First, you have to have a vector search endpoint, and then you also have to have that table. That table needs to have the change data feed enabled, and I'll show you how to create that endpoint and enable that table. So first of all, if you go to the compute section, I have it opened here in a second tab, and then if you go to vector search, this part's very simple. I already have one created, but all you have to do is go over here to create endpoint. Give it any name you want, and then choose the type. There's two different types. One is cheaper than the other, but the more expensive one is a little bit more optimized, or a little bit more efficient and optimal. So it's up to you. And then you click confirm. For this example, I believe I'm just using the cheaper option. So then you have to have a delta table. For this video, I created a very simple example that basically has data about shoe products. So this table called demo product texts has an ID column, a name column, which is the name of the shoe, and a text column, which is a description of the shoe. You can see the values that I inserted into the table right here. And then if you run a quick select statement on that, you'll see that as well. And like I said, in order to add a vector search index to a table, you have to have the change data feed property enabled. So if I run this command right here, it will enable that property and set it to true. So let's go into that table in the catalog and see what it looks like. So I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to search for that table. And here it is. You can see my ID column, my name column, and my text column. The column that we are going to build the vector search index on is this text column right here. Now that you are here at this table, we can create the vector search index. All you have to do is click on this create button here at the top right. Go to vector search index, and then give it a name. Since I already have it created, I'm just going to call it test VSI. I'm not actually going to create this one because it takes a few minutes to provision, but I'll show you the steps that you need to follow. So you need to choose your primary key, which in this case is ID. You need to choose the columns that you'd like to sync. By default, the primary key and the embedding column will be synced, but if you wanted to sync any other columns, then you could. For example, if I wanted to sync this name field. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it blank and only do the column but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it blank so that it will choose the ID and the embedding column by default. Next, you choose your embedding source column, which in our case is going to be the text field. If you already have a table with an existing embedding column, you can choose this option, but we're not going to do that today. Choose your embedding model. You see that there's really only two options right here. And then you can turn on sync if you want. What this does is that it creates a Unity catalog table with that saves the generated embeddings. I think I will go ahead and turn it on. And then you choose your endpoint, which is that test endpoint that we created right here. And then the sync mode can be either triggered or continuous. So that's basically if your table that your vector search index is built on top of gets updated, you can trigger the updates manually or have it continuous. Continuous is going to be more expensive. And then you'll click create, and that will create the table for you. So if I go back out into catalog, you can see that I already have this vector search index created. If you go here, it shows you the information about the vector search index. Source table is the table that we were just looking at. The endpoint is that endpoint that I showed you. There are 10 rows indexed. The sync type or the sync schedule is triggered. And if you go down here, this is where you could trigger a manual sync to make sure that your data in the table is all synced and up to date. So now if we go back to the notebook and we scroll down, we have the vector search index created. Now we're ready to query it. So in Databricks, you can use SQL actually to query against your index using this syntax. So we have vector search. It's kind of like a function within SQL. You specify your index, which is this one, the one that we just created. And then you have your query. This could be anything. And then you tell it how many results you want to return. So in this case, it's going to return the top 5 results. If I run that, you can see that these are the top 5 results based on shoes for gym training. And it even gives you a similarity score. If I go further down, here's another example where we're not just searching on keywords, but we're searching on semantic meaning and keyword. So again, we specify the index, we specify the query. In this case, we chose hybrid for the query type, which includes semantic plus keyword matching, and the number of results is again 5. So I'll run that. And these are a set of results. If we continue to scroll down in this notebook, there's also a way to do this using PySpark. I'm going to install the necessary libraries and let that run for a second. And then I'll continue to scroll, and we have this cell right here that we will run. So we import the libraries that we need. We initialize a workspace client, and we initialize a vector search client. I'm not going to get into the details of what all this code means. This is simply showing you how to get this up and running. We create this index variable, which calls our index using the index name, and then a very similar structure to the SQL query that we saw before, but we save the result in this results variable, and then we print the top 5 matches. So I'm going to run this again. And that's how you can do it using PySpark. In the next video, we are going to take these results from the similarity search and use them as context in a RAG-powered solution that plugs into an LLM. It'll take these results as the context and be used in the prompt, which asks the question to the LLM. And there you have it. That is how to create and query a vector search index in Databricks. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.